Hi, welcome back to the channel. I know I haven't uploaded for quite a while now, but as I think about making these videos, sometimes I have to think about a topic that's worth coming on and doing. I know it's been about 2 weeks since I last uploaded, but it's when I feel like a topic is relevant. So if anyone was wondering why I haven't uploaded as recently, well, that's why. It's because sometimes it has to be something that resonates with me, or something that I think might resonate with somebody watching. I don't wish to just come on and make a video about anything and just try and throw a video together. I usually want it to have a point, and that's why it sometimes can take time. So, anyway, I digress. The video in which I want to be talking about today is something that's about my own venture, about my own the journey which I'm taking at the moment. As I mentioned in the last video, an agency had got back to me, and originally I was meant to be having my meeting with them on the 5th of May, which, 2 days from now. Well, they got back to me yesterday, and now it has been put back to the 22nd of May. So that's a week and 4 days from when this video is filmed. And what I want to talk about in this video is, and I'm sure somebody somewhere will relate to this, is when you do begin something, whatever it might be. It might be to do modelling, might be whatever venture it is, whatever career venture, it might be an educational route, whatever it is. How there are things that come along that you don't always anticipate. Curveballs, I like to call them. Now, like a spanner being thrown in the works, it's something that you don't anticipate till it happens. Now, I understand in the scheme of things, the 22nd of May isn't such a long stretch of time, but at this present time, it feels further away than it actually is. And the reason for that is, as I've mentioned in previous videos, about how the writing process, particularly when you go into modelling, can be quite strenuous. When you feel like things are moving, when you feel things are kind of going in the right direction, and then something out of the blue, like this, like it being put back 2-3 weeks, comes out the woodwork, you kind of feel like you're back to square one. Now, this video isn't like, oh, woe is me, poor me. There is a positive point to it. There is some optimism that I will get to with it. How you can turn a defect into a virtue, if you like. How something that can get you down can also be something good for you. But I'll get to that in time. But the writing process itself can be strenuous. And then when you feel that you are moving in the right direction, something comes out, a spanner is thrown in the works, and you have to compose yourself and realise that, okay, it's bearable. 3 weeks. It isn't. It feels longer than it is. But at the moment in time, when you get this news, you are like, oh, just when you think you're getting there, you feel kind of back at square one, if you know what I mean. Now, I don't know, there might be somebody who's watching this who's been in this situation prior, who may be doing modelling now, who may know what I'm on about. Or again, it's for people who want to get into it, and I'm kind of like trying just to kind of point out the pitfalls that you may come up against. That, like I say, the writing process itself is a very strenuous thing, and it will affect you in different ways. Like for me, for example, certain periods I'm quite happy with it, and I'll cope with it quite well. it's I when I went into this, I kind of knew this pre-hand. I knew this would be the case. There would be waiting, a lot of waiting. It would be a process, and is something. It's part and parcel with it, and I knew that going into it. So I'd say 80% of the time, I'm quite level, and I'm quite resilient with it. But there are the odd time here and there where it kind of gets to you, and this is a great example of when that can kind of happen, when you can you do kind of think to yourself, why am I doing it? You do have moments of self-doubt, and I don't care who you are, we all have them from time to time. I don't care what you do, what situation you're in, whatever you're doing, you will probably come up against that at some point. You will have moments of self-doubt. We all do. It's quite a natural thing. But at the same time, it doesn't make it any easier when those moments arise, when you feel yourself in that situation. But again, we all face that at some point. And like I say, I don't care who you are. We'll all be in that situation at some point where you will feel an element of self-doubt. And with this, for example, with the process of sending it out to agencies and waiting to hear back, and when you do hear back, you get an appointment and then expect it to be on a certain date, and then it's moved back, and you have all that carry on. And that's when the element of self-doubt creeps in, and you think to yourself, why am I actually putting myself in this situation? Well, you do it for one reason, really. Well, I do. And that's because I expect or want a better outcome. And you feel that you are doing it, you're working towards an outcome. And again, that doesn't necessarily just correlate with modelling. It can apply to whatever situation it is, whatever you are doing, whatever job you may be applying for. That kind of correlates with any situation. Because there's people I've spoken to who they're not going into modelling, but they're looking at other means of work, and are kind of in the same situation. They hear back from them, but it's not always definite. So, why am I doing this video? Well, this video is to kind of highlight how easy it is at times to kind of fall into self-doubt, and how you can pull yourself out from it. I think, if you may know already watching this, you may have your own means of getting yourself out of that rut when it arises. You might not have to listen to what I always say. You might already know. I suppose it depends. It's in the eye of the beholder. It depends on the individual. But for me, I have to kind of rationalise it to myself, and I have to kind of remind myself that you have come far. It's just there's stumbling blocks that you hadn't anticipated at first. So, during the process of me doing, starting this modelling, as I said to it way back in the first video, modelling journey. In the process of doing it, there has been moments, there has been times where I have kind of thought to myself, why am I really doing this? Why am I putting myself in this situation? Because, as I say, I knew going into it, you're going to come up against opposition, you're going to come up against criticism, you're going to come up against all these things. And it does really determine how, the make or break of it is how you handle those situations. I've spoken about that in previous videos. But it's recognising how you get yourself, how that downward spiral begins. In that you get a bit of bad news like yesterday, and it's not bad news particularly. It's just it's a hindrance more than anything. It's an irritant, but it at the same time, that's when if you let any doubt that you have, that's the moment it will rear its ugly head. When something like what happened yesterday begins, you think, oh, okay, it's not going to happen. It's easy to start jumping the gun and running with it and thinking, oh, it's not going to work, it's not going to happen. And it's happened to me on a few occasions where I've kind of said to myself, this is silly, why are you doing this? And then I think to myself, no, you know why you're doing it. But it's strange how it happens, how the juxtaposition in your moods about it, how one day you'll be very optimistic about it and quite happy about it and looking forward to it. And then on a day like yesterday, when you get some, when you have to backtrack to a degree, when it isn't going according to plan as much as you would like, you have to start reevaluating. And like I say, that's when you start thinking, why are you putting yourself through this? And you start going through that rigmarole. What you have to remind yourself is that it's just a minor hiccup, and it is something that will more than likely be resolved. It's not necessarily the end of the world. It's not, you're still going somewhere. It's just like you've just stalled almost. And it isn't for anything you've done. And I think that's another element of it. You kind of realise the situation that you haven't got a lot of control. And I think it's addressing that and realising that you haven't, a lot of it is out of your control. And you have very limited control. But once you realise that, and you realise the situation, the arena that you're in, and it's part and parcel with it, it goes with the territory. When you realise that, it's easier to kind of, you learn, or I have, because I've been applying to agencies now since November. So you start to, you begin to get used to it, and you start rolling with it, and you start knowing how to kind of deal with it. And it's all about, I guess, practice makes perfect. It's all about the more you do this, the more you apply, the more you do anything, the more you become attuned to it, I suppose. The same we're doing YouTube videos. It's the same thing. Every time you do a YouTube video, you want it. You want somebody, even if one or two people take something from it. You hope it resonates with somebody. So it's like anything. It's all about, I guess, persistence. And there will be times in whatever you do, you will think, this is pointless. It's not really going anywhere. And you will have those elements of self-doubt. And the problem with that is if you don't kind of talk yourself out of it or get a grip on it, it can bring you into lower play. You can start becoming quite negative about the situation. And you don't really want that to happen because you don't want it to all be a negative experience. You want to enjoy what you're doing. And you want to be optimistic about it. And you want to be quite enthusiastic about it. But at times it's hard when it feels like the ladder is ridiculously steep. It can feel like, it's almost like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, and then at times it can kind of bring you down, I guess. I don't know, you may have been in that situation yourself. You might be in that situation right now with something you're doing. You might be in exactly the same situation that you might be applying to modelling agencies and being in exactly the same situation. Who knows? And as like I said, what knocked me with it was that you get an appointment and you're all ready for it and you're all sold for it, and then it's not going to be for another 3 weeks. And that can, obviously there's things that happen. It's understandable for unforeseen circumstances, they said. And obviously it isn't deliberate. These things happen, you know that. but it doesn't. But at the same time, it is still irritating, and it's nobody's fault, but it's just still irritating at the same time. And I'm sure, like I say, most people have been in that situation at some point where they want to do something, but they feel like there's something that's, every time they get a bit closer, they feel like they're being pulled a step back. But that's why I wanted to make this video. I wanted to just come on and say that, yeah, I started this channel to go through to kind of document the experience in which I'm undertaking with the modelling. Because it was through modelling that I began the YouTube channel. And it feels like I'm getting closer, and I am, but at the same time it still like feels miles away. Even in actuality it isn't, but it feels like that. So what this video was about was to talk about how through this experience, since I began this, I've had these periods of self-doubt and been like, oh, okay, you know. And again, I don't care who you are, we all have that at some point. Whatever you do, it's very normal. It's very common if you're beginning anything new. Something that you are a novice in, and something that you haven't really got any experience in. It's very common that you will have elements of self-doubt. But all you can do, or all I can do, is keep moving forward and keep persisting, because that's all you can do. And this is the more positive side of it. The more positive now, that the more you continue with it, and it does begin to pay off, even if it's in small doses. Like with me, for example, I applied to agencies, I got rejected, and then on the third agency I got accepted. Then the waiting process to get a meeting, then I get a meeting, and then it's put back. All these things. But what you don't realise at the time is, while all this is going on, it is building your resilience, and it is building your confidence in that you beginning to learn how to deal with the process of sending out to agencies, having to wait for a response, all this. And this is the positive side of it, and this is what I said in the beginning of the video. There is something you get out of it, even in the negative, is that you get experience. You learn kind of the rule of the game, you learn how it goes, and you begin to apply it in each situation. Well, that happened before. If it happens again, well, each time you can handle it slightly better than you did the time before. And you don't always think that at the time when, like, for example, something, you get a knockback, or you get rejected, or it gets put back, or whatever the situation might be. And again, this might be someone might be watching this who isn't even doing modelling. It could be to do with any beginning any journey, whatever it might be. The more you do it, you are learning along the way, and you might not always realise that at the time, but you are learning as you go forward. And it does build character, and that's one of the best experiences of it, is you learn the tools of the trade. So I hope that this video kind of makes sense to anyone, and if anyone is going through that situation, they can kind of relate to it. So my appointment is now on the 22nd of May, which, like I say, is just over 2 weeks. So 2 weeks and 4 days. I am really excited about it, and want to get the ball rolling, and then I can make more videos on the actual experience. That is what I'm planning to do right now. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that is what it goes underway. That's what happens. So, does that make any sense? Have a think about it to yourself. Does it make any sense what I'm saying? Or am I just talking at the top of my head? Does it make any sense? To me it does. And I'm sure if you are going through that in whatever situation, you will kind of understand to a degree what I'm actually saying is that you can... There are moments where you would want to quit, where you might think, you know what, I don't want to do this. It's crazy that I'm doing this. Why am I doing it to myself? And you do have that. You do have those moments where you do think to yourself, this is silly. Why am I doing this? But then you have to remind yourself, but you've actually come on heaps and bounds. And you can't give up now because you're halfway through it. So what I'm basically trying to say is you can't really give in to the inner doubt, self-doubt, because it all benefits you even in the negative situation. You're still learning something. When you get a rejection, when you get a knockback, when that one doesn't work, you're better the next time. You learn something for the next time you do it. The next time you apply to an agency or to any job environment or any job setting, not just modelling. But again, if you are watching this and you are interested in modelling, particularly with the modelling, is that you have to be prepared for some form of... that things aren't just going to fall into place. And that's what I've had to remind myself with this latest setback. That these things happen. It's not the end of the world, it's minor inconveniences, but these things do happen. Things don't just fall into place, and you have to take that on board. But when you do that, you feel much better. It's when you expect it just to happen like that, and it doesn't. I hope this video resonates with somebody. I hope it makes some sense. That's what I wanted to come on and say. Will be uploading probably in the next week, or probably over the next week. It's usually between a week to 2 weeks I might upload a video when I think something is relevant to talk about. So I'm not just going to come on and talk about anything and just try to do anything to get a video. As I say, it isn't about raking in thousands of views. I know these videos are quite vague, really. It's a niche, it's about modelling, but as long as a few people take something from it, well, then that's all you can really ask for. If you're new to the channel, after you watch this video, check out some of the others on the channel. I hope everybody is doing well who watches the channel. I hope everybody's okay. Hopefully my next video I'll be able to update about the actual meeting itself. I might do one before that, but I would presume I will probably do the next video after I've had the meeting. So, fingers crossed, everything goes okay. Hope everybody's doing fine. Like I say, if you want, subscribe. If you want, leave a like. If you want, leave a comment. It's completely up to you. I'll be wrapping it up now. But as I say, if you're new here, check out the rest of the videos on the channel. They're quite good. Anyway, peace. Off.